Yes, mate. We are good. We're good. We're good. We're live. Welcome, Toby, the main man of the moment. How you
Thank you,
doing?
Ben. Yeah, good, mate. Yeah, thank you. And obviously, nice to actually talk to you in person. I know we've been chatting a little bit over Instagram and stuff like that. So I'm a big fan of your stuff as well, mate. So it's yeah, pleasure to be on here.
No, I appreciate it very much. Like I say, Instagram's been a powerful tool for myself in terms of meeting new people from around the world because you're in Dubai at the minute, aren't you? So you originally from the UK then, yeah?
Yeah. I'm from like Brecon Beacons, kind of way,
Okay.
Abergavenny. Not that
Right,
I
right.
don't
Okay.
tell many people that, but I am. Yeah.
So, 'cause as I said to Toby just before we went live, I kind of wanted to go live fairly soon, just so that the conversation that me and you have is quite open. Because again, I don't know too much about you as it is. Met you through a couple of people that I know again through social, and I've just been addicted to watching how you train, how you apply yourself, and even some of the things you've kind of like obviously achieved through your life and done through your life, the experience you've gained. Um, but you're currently out in Dubai. How have you landed out in Dubai?
To be honest, it was like a string of events really ended me up here. It wasn't planned at all.
Wow. Okay.
I came here after I left the Marines, which I'll get into why I ended up here. But I'm personal training out here now.
Yep.
Been doing that for I've been out here just over 7 years now.
Wow. And
Um,
what's Dubai like, man? Is it? I've
it's
only heard amazing things about Dubai.
Yeah, I mean, like there's two sides to it. There's obviously the Instagram side of it, and then there's like the real side of it. So it's not all like
Okay.
pool parties and Lamborghinis and stuff. I mean, there's
I
a
love
lot
it.
of that, not of that, but it's not what interests me about it, to be honest.
Okay.
It's like it's if you're into fitness, it's massive over here. It's like the best
It's
facilities. Everyone wants to get in shape. So if you're a coach or anything like that, it's like it's easy to get work. No tax. Again,
yeah.
like amazing facilities, hot 365 days of the year. So
Yeah.
it's just a positive place to be as well. Everyone's very hard working here. Everyone's motivated. You meet a lot of cool people actually who are motivated on track. And I find a lot of people in the UK at the moment are going through a bit of a tough time with motivation and stuff mostly. And here it just seems like it's fucking easy to get inspired by people and meet people. And so it's a good place for a
Wow.
young person, definitely, I would say. Yeah.
Do you think like not to tangent too much because I want to bring it back to you, but it's a really interesting thing you said there because um, there's a lot of development in kind of Saudi at the minute as well, isn't there? And it's like I was listening to a podcast and they were talking about like the benefits of living out there, and it's like honestly, in terms of like the crime rate, in terms of like saying pay no taxes, in terms of feeling safe, in terms of the things that you can go and do. And this guy was just being brutally honest. It was an American podcast, and the host was saying to him like, "Why are you living out there? Like America's the best, blah blah blah."
I
And
think
this
I
guy was
saw
coming
that.
back to
I
him.
think I saw a bit of that. Yeah.
Yeah, and he was coming back was saying, "Well, actually," and he was being honest and listing it. And the podcast host was just like in awe at the end of it, kind of looking like, "All right, okay, yeah, it does sound pretty
It's
phenomenal over there." It's kind of like they've
safe, mate, as well.
say that again, sorry.
It's so safe here. Like
Yeah.
you could leave the keys in your car on the high street for 2 days and it wouldn't go missing. You know, it's like
And
it's
is that due to the way it's kind of policed, or do you think that's just the ethics of the people over there?
it's a good question, really. I think it's a bit of both, as in that you don't just get a slap on the wrist like you do in the UK.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, and the thing is, the majority of the people here are here to better their lives. So if you get
wow,
caught doing anything, you'll either end up like with a pretty hefty prison sentence here, or they just
yeah,
deport you.
wow,
So
okay,
if you're here to better your life and you're getting deported back to your country, then it doesn't make sense, you know. So I think a lot of people toe the line here because of that. And it's policed very well, of course, and I think also they don't talk about crime here. You know, when you don't talk about something, it's not on the forefront of people's minds, right? You know, it's like
Yeah.
in the UK, it's like, I was a stabbing in here, this happened, and then people grow up and like, oh, that's nothing about it.
Yeah. And I think like you say, unfortunately in the UK as well, it's a desired way of life for a lot of young people. Like that is a lot. Like if you look at a lot of younger age males, especially, they start to idolize the crime
Yeah,
lifestyle. Do you know what I mean? So it's again, it's an interesting way. So it's
glorified,
kind of to pull it back.
isn't it?
Say that again. Sorry.
Like it's like glorified almost in the UK. You know, it's
Yeah, yeah, 100%, mate. So to pull it back to yourself a little bit, so obviously UK based, so you went into before even the Marine started, kind of like what was your kind of childhood like in terms of yourself, in terms of where you grew up, and how did that start to lead your life?
yeah, good question. Because I mean, people ask me like why I joined the Marines as well. I joined at a young age. Obviously, I joined at 17, and I couldn't
Yeah,
answer that question really until a bit later on in life. Um, I grew up South Wales, kind of like border of Brecon Beacons, kind of way, like halfway up a mountain. Um, I grew up with my mother, my two sisters. I had a dad, but it was like I'd see my dad maybe once a year or something like this. So I never really had like a, a strong male role model in my life consistently. I always looked up to my
yeah,
dad, but I didn't have him consistently. So it was always me around, again, like two sisters and my mother. So I started getting into a lot of like rugby and boxing and almost as much like macho stuff as I could because I didn't want to, I didn't feel like I fitted in with what they were doing, like the movies they
yeah,
liked, the things that the food they ate. I was like, I'm different here. So I kind of always pushed myself off to be different and was like, right, I've got to be like macho. I've got to do this. I've got to be fit and strong. So that always led me, yeah, like in rugby and boxing, and then on from there I joined the Marines just almost as soon as I could, really.
And do you think like a
Um,
bit of a weird question this because again, when I speak to a lot of people, I kind of dissect as much as I can because I feel it will help others see a different perspective. But because you talk a lot about negativity when you don't have a strong male role model within your life, but do you potentially see some positives? And I don't mean this disrespectfully because obviously you're saying your dad wasn't there consistently, and that must have obviously caused some form of trauma at a younger age. But at the same time, being just in such a female dominated surrounding has led you to chase and have a desire and determination to push on to things that have obviously developed you into the guy you are today.
Mate, 100%. It's like this the story about two brothers with an alcoholic dad. One goes up to be an alcoholic, one goes up to hate alcohol and wants to be the
Yeah,
opposite, right?
yeah,
So I think everything that happens in life is how you react to it. Um, some guys might grow up without a dad in their life and use that as an excuse to be a fucking asshole or a failure. Some
yeah.
guys might be like, right, I haven't got that in my life, so I'll fucking show you what I can do without it. It's almost that driving force behind something. It's like I think it depends on the person, right? It can
Yeah.
make or break you. Same with any situation, I think.
So in your younger years, do you feel you were very driven because of that? Maybe subconsciously, maybe not consciously knowing it at the time, but looking back now, do you think that that was a big driver?
Massively, yeah. And I didn't really figure that out until I was probably about 27. I was always
Wow.
like so driven, so motivated, and I had like this chip on my shoulder almost to be like as fit and strong as fast as I could, and like never give a fuck about and be that motivated person. And I didn't really know like where
Yeah.
does that come from. I look back and I
Yeah.
was like, oh, of course, that all makes fucking sense now because I had to like prove to
Wow.
myself a little bit.
And to stay in your youth, so you said did you say 17 is when you joined the Marines?
Yeah, 17, yeah.
So before then, how? how hard were you pushing yourself within kind of like you're talking about there, rugby and boxing and training? Because I see your stuff now on social media, and the levels you're pushing to are just phenomenal. I was speaking to Lee the other day when I went to meet him at his challenge, and we were speaking about you briefly then. And I said, like, to see the body shape you've got in terms of bodybuilding, but then to also see the times you are getting on the ski erg and the rower and all the other things that you do is phenomenal. That like, and you also put a lot of posts out, which I really relate to, about like a true athlete in terms of performance. So it's not
Yeah.
just the shape, the aesthetics, if you like. It's like what can that body do in terms of output?
Mm.
And I just find that phenomenal. So obviously, there's been some foundational building throughout your life to create that. But in the years before the Marines, potentially before they started to kind of mold a mindset, which again I wouldn't know, so you'll have to kind of tell me about that. Did that come before them, or where were
Yeah,
you
definitely.
before you joined the Marines in terms of mindset and fitness and strength and all that?
Yeah, it came before then. I think I found, I don't want to say an escape, but it was more like I was like addicted to exercise. It wasn't like I was running away from anything negative. I was just feeling so much better when I was doing it. Um,
Okay.
Again, like my mother and my sisters would be inside watching TV. I'd be outside skipping, like in fucking like -5 or something. It was that whatever that feeling was that I got from pushing myself and knowing that they're inside by the fire watching TV and I'm out in the cold in my hoodie listening to 50 Cent. Like whatever, whatever that was, that gave me like a little bit more strength, I think, and I got addicted to that. I was like, what's everyone else doing? Okay, I'm gonna go for a run 4 miles on the block because guys in school are going for a 1 mile run. Do you know? I was always like, what are they doing and what can I do differently? And that's what I got like a massive like rush out of it, and that's kind of I started to build my I guess my personality or my character, whatever, off of doing those things, and then it kind of just like was a stepping stone for me. Then even going into the Marines, is I was always I had to be pushing it more than everyone else because I felt like that was who I was. Like that's kind of who I become, I guess.
It's really interesting hearing you speak then, because I think that, and again, this is probably from my own journey as well. Like I don't know, a lot of other people use negativity from life and stuff that's happened to them push them harder within training. They've used training as like, not like you said, kind of an escape, and then they've put everything into it. And what amazes me about the positive side of it is that you got like yourself is able to push yourself to so many extremes, and you're not trying to use pain as fuel. You've just got that inner drive to be able to put yourself into a situation, not needing negative energy to fuel you. You've just got the fuel to kind of
Yeah,
push on through your own essence, if you like.
yeah. And sort of the way I see it is, exercise is a great tool to to get away from that negative energy. But I think after
Yeah,
a while, you don't want to be starting from the bottom and then working out and training your neutral. You want to be starting from a minimum of neutral over time, and then when you
yeah,
train, you actually feel great, not normal. And then if you can feel
yeah.
great every day, and then you train on top of that, and you can feel fucking wonderful, that's when I think you can achieve true, like, I don't know what it is, what the word is, peace maybe, or
Yeah, man.
I don't know what
I,
the
I
word is.
think, yeah, I think anyone listening that's into training will definitely get what you're saying. And I think that, so I'm gonna, sorry to delve into this, but it kind of links in with what we're talking about. When you train now and you're doing, because I know this mental challenge that you've got lined up of 3 marathons on 3 marathons on, is it a ski, a row, and a run, and you're going to do that twice over? Is that correct?
Yeah, yeah. So 6 in total. Yeah,
Like mind blowing that. But the question, I'm going to dig more into that in a little while, because I do want to kind of hear a lot more about that, and obviously for the cause as well. But the question I've got is, when you're doing things like that, where does negativity come into your mind? So we're not talking about negative energy that you're utilizing, but at the times where your body's hurting, at the times where your mind's tripping and saying you can't do this or give in or that's burning or whatever it may be, are you experiencing these? How do you deal with them? What's that like in Toby's mind, if you're happy to say it?
Of course, yeah. So actually, this is quite a funny one. This is actually like a little bit of story back into the
Yeah,
Marines when I
please.
first started. I've always like considered myself like mentally strong even before I joined the Marines and stuff like that. And I would always, if there was anything in boxing like stress position, I'd have to be the last one to go down. Just call it ego or whatever you want to call it. But I had to be that guy.
Yeah.
And then I joined the Marines and I joined all these other fucking lads who were like-minded. And I was 17. I was actually small as a kid and quite skinny.
Okay. Okay.
I was always like short for my age and like quite thin. When I was 17, I was probably about 5'8" or something,
Okay.
maybe like 68 kilos. So I was still pretty small. And then I remember like getting pushed and pushed and pushed. And I was going up this big hill carrying probably 50 kilo or something, maybe. And I was like in my head, I was like, it's fucking unfair. I'm 17. These guys are all like 20 odd. They're all 20 kilos weight on me. They're all so much stronger than me. It's bullshit. Why is this? Why does my burger weigh the same as theirs? And I was at the back of everyone, and something just clicked in my head that one day. I was like, if you're gonna quit, right, quit. If you're not gonna quit, don't fucking think about quitting. Don't talk about
Wow.
quitting. Don't
Wow.
play with the idea of it. Just quit if you want to quit. If you don't even think about it. Well, this burger's not getting any lighter the more you fucking moan about it. It's actually getting heavier. So something or someone in my fucking head that day like died a little bit in a good way. Um,
Yeah, man.
and after that, I was at the fucking front of everything, and I won everything I could in there, and I got like the fastest times on my commando tests. I remember the
Yeah.
hill, and it was like an epiphany in my head. And after that, I was like, it's not getting any lighter, mate. The hill's not getting any shorter. Either you fucking change, or just quit. Like,
Wow.
what do you want to do? That's your two fucking options. So I was like, I can't.
I dropped. Shit. Yes, mate. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, not sure what happened then. Sorry, mate.
Yeah, no, don't worry. The producer I've got, I can switch it all up, so it's absolutely
Ah,
fine. It's all good, mate. But that was powerful what you were saying. So I kind of don't want to lose that for a second because so sticking with the original question that I asked you, because I think, do you still at times then get that where you have to remind yourself, or is that now just attuned so much in your mind that whenever you go into anything, you've already said that to yourself, if that makes sense?
yeah, so I still get it. I still get seconds of it creep in, but it's not. It's like whatever you want to call it, that other person in your head. It's maybe
Yeah,
like 2% now. It's not completely gone. I don't think you can ever completely get rid of it because
yeah,
maybe that is also the person that reasons with me. If I fuck my ankle up, is
yeah,
that
of
that
course.
person's going to be like, yeah, you can do 10 more miles, but you might not fucking walk for 6 months afterwards. So I think
Yeah,
it's important to still have that voice of reason. But like I put a
yeah,
story up the other day about you've got to be an unreasonable man to do these kind of things that people don't want to do. You can't reason with
yeah,
everything because it doesn't make sense to do it. Really, it doesn't
yeah.
really make
To a lot
sense.
of people.
So I still have it, but I still always remember that thing, and I'm like, if you want to quit, quit. If you don't even think about it because you're just wasting
Yeah,
energy on it. So now, like it'll creep in. I think, fucking hell, this is going to be hard, or I've bitten off more than I can chew. But that's
yeah,
literally just like probably not exaggerated. Maybe in 8 or 10 hours, that might come in my head for 20 seconds.
yeah.
The rest
You know.
Sorry about that, mate. Don't,
No, please don't apologize. It's not a problem, mate. This is
my 10-year
it's the joys of technology, my man. It's all good, mate. Like I say, sometimes it's nice to have it natural anyway, so we'll make it work. But it's just good to be good to. And there's the idea behind whenever I do things like this is, when you say something powerful, it's about being able to cut that. And social media today is about kind of short time frames. So the more powerful you can be within that's good. So I'm hoping I can personally listen back to this and take out some key things that you're saying that you put across that I feel could really help people. And the idea is to help that deliver as well as a long form, mate. So no matter what happens in terms of cutting, we're getting what we needed to get. And I think in terms of what you were saying then, from my own understanding, is our body is naturally drawn to safety in terms of keeping us as safe as possible. So logically, is where you're starting to think about the things you were talking about there. So from a subconscious perspective, it's trying to make you stop. Are you with me, Toby? I love it, mate. One sec. I've got to remove one. Bringing him back in now. Here he is. Please don't say sorry. I'm just trying to. What's your Wi-Fi like that end? Is it okay or you on
Wi-Fi?
It's
not the Wi-Fi. It's just like my Chrome's just shutting down. But it happens sometimes when I'm watching a movie, and it'll happen 3 times, and it's done it 3 times now, so it should be all right.
Right. So what we'll do is we'll go again. If it cuts again, I'm going to speak to my producer and just find out if there's a better, because we can do things like Zoom and stuff like that. This just got more options for us with StreamYard. It's a good little.
It should be all right now anyway.
Yeah. Okay, mate. So what I was saying then was that you like from our primitive side of things. Okay, we're drawn to be safe, to stay alive, to run away from danger. That's how we've evolved as a species. Then we developed the ability to logically think, which obviously animals don't have that full of. Some animals have better than others, but not as well as humans. So my point being there is when you're putting yourself into these situations, the voice is the part inside of you that wants to keep you away from any potential danger of harming yourself, injuring yourself, whatever that may be. But what we can now do as humans, as evolution has helped us do, is have that logical thing to say, no, 1 minute, I'm not going to get injured. Or 1 minute, I am putting myself into this dangerous situation, but I believe in my capabilities to be able to achieve it or accomplish it. And that's what I loved about what you were talking about then, because you seem to be so good at logically talking to yourself in extreme situations that enables you to show off an unbelievable ability to accomplish things. And that's something that I think a lot of people don't have, but have struggled to understand how to apply or how to learn to do. A lot of people run away from the mind, or have never really kind of put themselves in a position where they need to have a word with themselves and they need to pull on strings that are going to enable them to do things, if that makes sense. And it seems especially from hearing you talk then, you've got an extremely good ability to have a word with yourself in your own head to be able to kind of push on in the right situations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, like you said, it's logical, isn't it? Everything's is logical, and it's breaking it down. And it's the one thing that I've been doing. Obviously, lately I've been doing these long kind of challenges, right? 8 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours. Next weekend is going to be 26 to 28 hours. And I got this like big thing about time that I've been thinking about. I'm like, if you're sitting and watching a movie, a good movie for 3 hours, time goes like this, right?
True.
From this, if you're doing something unpleasant for 3 hours, it seems to take a long fucking time, but it's still 3 hours. It's only that 24 hours in the day. That day is going to come and that day is going to go, whether you're uncomfortable or not. So that's the kind of way I try and think about it. I was like, this has to end. No matter how much pain you're in, like, you've logically worked out how long it's going to take you. So it's going to take you 12 hours. Okay, you're 6 hours in and you're hurting a lot. But you know that in 6 hours time, if you can just put up with this pain or try and ignore it, in 6 hours time, it will be over. And it'll only get better after that. So,
yeah.
and then you can be comfortable after. Then you can go home, you can shower, you can eat, you can do whatever you want. So it's just controlling like your body not to freak out, thinking I'm hurting, I've got 6 hours left, and then all these negative thoughts trickle in. It's thinking 6 hours, that's you go home, watch a movie, shower, eat, go on your phone. That's fucking 6 hours gone.
So you're positively reframing a hell of a lot, aren't you? So like you say, anytime you're experiencing pain within the body or something that someone might then let negative thoughts take over, you're straight away putting the positive reframe on it and just thinking, no, I can do this and this is where I'm going to be. I'm going to be sat at home, I'm going to shower, I'm going to eat. It's you positive focusing to kind of help you endure the momentary pain.
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah.
And what in terms of like the Marines, how much did that create the mindset that you've got now, and also potentially not just the mental side, but also the kind of physical endurance? Because some of these aspects you're putting yourself through now are higher than elite level in some regards, and you're choosing to do them. Like this challenge you just picked out, you've decided you're going to do it, you created and going into it. Kind of, how much did the Marines have an impact on yourself in terms of your path away from them, but more so not in terms of your path away from them in terms of, say, a career, but in terms of what you wanted to continue to push your mind and body to? Because they probably at one time were deciding, right, this is the challenge we're going to give the chaps and the ladies on this day, XYZ. Now it's down to yourself, and you're saying, right, I'm going to put myself into this challenge. So how did that form the mentality and the mindset? And then what's continued into your life from that you're now kind of getting a grasp of?
Yeah, a very good question. I think with the Marines, it was always pushing you to your limit and beyond your limit, and it was against your will, and you didn't know what was coming next. So nothing is done under a perfect circumstance. So if you've got to do a yonk carrying like 120, 130 pounds for you don't know how long it's going to be. It might be 6 hours. It might be 18 hours. You don't know the distance. You don't know when you're going to stop for water, all this kind of stuff. And then you're sleep deprived and you're not hungry, but you're not really fueled up as much as you should be. And you're wearing fucking boots that have run through your feet after the first mile. So everything is done in the most imperfect circumstance, right? So that it starts to give you a lot of inner confidence afterwards. Like, I can do these things in the worst circumstances. And also there's like the wind and rain coming in sideways on your face just to make things even worse. So I think if I can do these things in these horrible environments under the worst circumstances, yeah, 100 kilometers on a treadmill, what, fucking AC in my trainers, bottle of water next to me, having a chat with my mate. Do you know what I mean? It's like,
Very true, very true.
Like, that's not that hard, is it? There's AC on you. You know what I mean? In your vest and your trainers. Like, fucking, that's easy. You haven't got a fucking big bag on. So it was putting you in that very imperfect circumstance that has kind of pushed me now to be able to be like, right, I can put myself in these circumstances and I'm choosing to do them. So that
Yeah.
almost gives me like, sometimes I think, am I in my comfort zone? Because I'm choosing what training to do. I'm trying to make it uncomfortable, but then I'm like, but I'm choosing. So actually, am I in my fucking comfort zone doing it? It's like, oh, I'm good at rowing. Oh, let's do a marathon on the rower. I'm good at skiing. Do you know? So that's why last weekend I did it, and then I just kept putting the weighted vest on last minute because I didn't train for it. I didn't want to do it. I was like, fuck it, do that, because I think otherwise I can set it up subconsciously. Oh, look, I'm pushing myself. So impressive. But then I'm like, yeah, you want to do it. So I'm always like fighting with myself, thinking, am I pushing myself? Or am I pushing myself exactly how I want to do it? That's a big thing I'm thinking at the moment. I don't know why.
Do you think? Do you what do you feel is? Do you feel the answer to that comes when you've completed it? Because I think going into it, you're always going to question yourself because you're such a strong individual to want to push yourself to the highest standard, which is an amazing thing. Do you think that you don't potentially give yourself the accolade until you've accomplished it, and then look back and think, you know what, wow, that was tough, and I had to put a lot into that? Do you feel, or
Um, Almost the opposite,
okay,
unfortunately. I think before I do it, I'm like, okay, this is going to be a tough one. This
okay,
one is gonna make me dig deep, and then there'll be moments, but I finish it and I'm like, fucking, I'm all right. I know that was all right.
wow,
And it's
wow,
almost, I don't know if it's like stupidity or ignorance or what, but I'm just like, and that's why every week or every other week I've been doing more and more and more. Like last weekend I did again 3 marathons with a weighted vest.
yeah,
This weekend is going to be 6, because I'm like, where's the point where I'm going to be like, all right, you fucking win, or so that I'm searching for it really. Like I can fuck myself up. I can always fail on time. Will I be able to run a marathon under 3 hours? Never in my fucking life. Probably, like,
okay,
but
okay,
but that's down to, again, like the physical side of things. But the
yeah.
mental side of things, I think what is gonna when is it gonna break me, or when is it gonna get really tough and I have to proper question myself? Because I do it a little bit, but I'm still searching for something more, I think.
And because it's a really interesting, mad interesting speaking to you. And this is kind of like why I wanted to go live straight away, because I think that I just enjoy having a chat to you away from a podcast, because this is, do you know what I mean? What you're talking about is just phenomenal to myself, because I think there's a lot of individuals that I'm networking with at the minute that that are living a life where they are trying to push themselves, mind and body, to an extreme, not for the search of danger or anything like that, but like you say, they find a meaning in it, and internally for themselves, and they've really got this want to go out and push themselves and test themselves and see what they can achieve and what they're capable of. And it's just kind of really interesting to hear your kind of model of processing things in your own mind, because it's like you say, if you're going to run a marathon and you wanted to do it in a certain time, you'd probably apply yourself differently, maybe lose some weight, maybe concentrate solely on running. So what you're doing at the minute is understanding where you are at in terms of physicality, and then still throwing yourself in, but ensuring that the challenge is set for you specifically. And is, I suppose that's where you're starting to kind of question a little bit in terms of, I've got to ask this question. What's the toughest thing that you think you've done then? Because I think you're still talking about trying to challenge yourself. You're still very confidently saying like you're pushing through most things, which isn't, it hasn't come across in an egotistical way. It's come across in a very good way in terms of just you as a human and what you push yourself to. But I'm just intrigued, is like, if you could look back over your whole life, like, man, what's been the toughest? And I mean the physical side of it. So like not an event, a trauma, but more so you've gone
Yeah.
into a physical challenge. Like what's the toughest been that's really tried and tested you?
So the only one I can really think of, which was again, it was just in the Marines. It was towards the end of my sort of 32-week training. I think it was probably week 26, 27. Um, it was a 10 or 11-day exercise.
Okay.
So carrying all your kit, 10 days, sleep deprived, maybe getting 2 hours sleep a night, something like this. And you're like you're seeing things at night, falling asleep, walking, all that kind of stuff.
Wow.
And I think it was the last like you're probably familiar with yomping, right? It's like military kind of hiking. So you yomp. I don't even know what the distance is. I can make it up in my head, but it's a good 12 hours a day, and then you're doing like attacks at night, then you're getting attacked at night when you're trying to sleep. So you're getting sleep deprived. And the last that's going on and on and on. And then the last probably, again, I don't know the exact time, but I would say about 18 hours is just pure, just yomping with your stuff. And they're fucking with your head because they're like, oh, another hour, lads, will be there. Oh, one more hour. Oh, see that forest? Right, it's just the other side of there. And you get there and you look and you're like waiting for someone to tell you something. Oh, another hour. And they do that and it fucks with your head massively.
Wow.
By this point, I was already conditioned. But I think that was physically, it's marching slow, but it's draining your body, like the weight on your body and like your feet are just ripped to bits. In like, I think it's different now. I think they have comfy boots, but back in my day, the boots would like, they were fucking shit, man. They rip your feet to bits. So it's just, every step is just uncomfortable. And that was, all I remember is when we got there, finally, I didn't know whether I wanted to laugh or cry. And that's the only time I've ever really felt like that. Obviously I laughed. But I wanted to cry with like happiness almost. And because I went somewhere where I knew I gave everything I had. And it was all it was left then. It was like physically drained, mentally drained, and then emotionally drained. So I went through like a mix of emotions, like happy and then like wanting to cry and stuff like that. That's the only time I can really think like that sticks with my head. That was tough.
Yeah. Well, if it sticks in your head, it's one. But that even you just telling me that, like, brutal. How much do you feel that the mental side affected you there? So, like you say, the things they were saying to you, the things they were doing to you, and also, like you say, just the not knowing, and then that just to hear, and then it wasn't just to hear, and then it wasn't like how much of that? Because I think, like you've talked about the physical stuff in terms of the rubbing on your feet, the blisters on your feet, how heavy the equipment was, and just the tiredness as well, the sleep deprived. But mentally, when someone is saying things to you, if that's what I was kind of getting from what you were saying, and also lying to you in terms of how much does it mess with your head not to just turn around and to say or do whatever it needs to be done? Because that's probably what they're trying to get out of people, that reaction.
Yeah, and the thing is as well is they offer you a way out, and you're already 27 weeks in out of 32. Lads, if you want to quit, just put your hand up. There's a wagon, there's a Land Rover. You can jump in a Land Rover. I'll take you back to camp. You can have a fry up and a coffee.
Honestly,
so they're putting the way out in there already for you. And that's what it's for, like physically, you're already at peak of fitness. So it's just a mental thing, but it's almost like listening to, like your own negative thoughts. And that's what it is. They just put in they're trying to fuck your head up constantly. When you've got an external thing trying to fuck your head up, then the internal voice is all over the fucking place as well. And and the strong voice in your head gets a little bit quieter and a little bit quieter. But you just got to keep listening to that one little, like the strong voice in your head, I find. But outside like influences can like make or break you, I think, if you let it.
And dig into that one for me. So are you talking there in terms of whether you allow, so in that scenario, whether you allow them to take control of your mind so that you do give in?
Yeah. The external, like the other people, for example.
Did anyone quit during that you saw?
No.
Oh wow, fair play.
I mean,
so
during training, a lot of people quit, but at that point, the lads are like, "We'll go through fucking hell, just to make it."
Yeah.
Oh, my mate, like 30 miles with a fractured ankle because that was the last test. Carrying weight, and he's like, "There's no fucking way." He rang me from hospital afterwards and was like, "Yeah, it was fucking broke."
Oh man! And is it camaraderie a lot at that point as well, or not? Was it quite singular in terms of finishing, or was there a bit of camaraderie in terms of like not necessarily an arm around the shoulder, but a look, a nudge, like, "Come on, man, we've got this."
Yeah, the brotherhood in there was something that I've never experienced. Like after leaving, I don't think I think I can, but you've got to be with. Do you know? This might sound funny, but when you're doing something hard and someone who's never done it is like, "Oh, go on, mate, you've got this." It's nice and you appreciate that the
Yeah.
support, but at the same time, it doesn't feel as heavy as, for example, like someone like yourself. If you were like, "Go on, mate, you can fucking do this," like, I know that you've been there before, so that voice carries like a lot of wealth with it.
Yeah.
So when the lads are around you, they're all going through the same thing as you, and you
Yeah.
see their faces, and like you said, it just can just be a nudge. You're like, well, he's not
Yeah.
fucking quitting, so why the fuck should I quit? Because he's in just as much pain as me. You know,
Yeah.
it's one of
Yeah,
them.
man.
It's like it's a brotherhood thing, right?
Yeah, without a doubt, and I love it. And I think that I know a few people that have been in the army or Marines, and funnily enough, I was out with someone the other day doing a challenge with them, and on the way back, there was someone passing us, and he kind of just asked us what we were doing and whatnot. He saw his knackered, pulling all this weight in the middle of nowhere, and he said he thought we were in the army. And he said something, and I didn't understand it. But my mate I was with obviously knew straight away, and he started to communicate with each other, and you could tell they had a bond off the bat. Never met, and they were just, and he was a really nice guy, but you could just tell there was something there between the two of them, and they were
Yeah,
talking about ranks or whatever it may be and experiences and stuff. And like you say, I think that's something. And I also believe that when you've been through something traumatic, even if it's kind of like a positive traumatic experience, there's a connection you gain with that person. And I've had it in my past, and sometimes it's maybe someone that you don't not necessarily not get on with, but you've never really aligned, whatever it may be. And then you go through a certain situation with that person where it's quite heavy on you both. And when you come away from it, you might still not be good mates, but you'll always have that respect for each other. It's just like you said there, it's always just like that.
like I know what you.
Yeah,
Yeah, have that respect, right? Because you know that
yeah.
they've been through
Silent
what you.
recognition in a way.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So in terms of just want to touch on the sleep very quickly. In terms of sleep for yourself, like when was that that for me is something that is I can go on lack of sleep, and I do that quite a lot. But I know that after a certain while, it does really start to impact my health, my mental state. So like I can be an early riser, I can go and get stuff done, I can be productive, and I can do that consecutively. But after a certain while, it starts to really impact myself. Is that a tactic they use because of that? And do you feel you have adapted because of that as well? And what's your view on that? Because I know there are other people that operate off low amount of sleep. And again, a big thing that I'm big on is belief. So I think sometimes it's not true facts, it's what the individual believes. I think if a person believes I can operate off 5 hours sleep and they truly, truly believe that and their life is productive, they can. Because I've seen it. For myself, like I said, I can operate a couple of nights on low sleep and still be productive, but over a longer period of time, I start to notice it here and there. Kind of like, where do you sit with that ideology, and what's your kind of philosophies around sleep, both in terms of what you've experienced and probably also where you sat now with sleep because of what you're achieving now in your lifestyle now? Like, where does sleep sit with you, if that makes sense?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I think a lot of things is down to your like history with stuff, right? So, for example, if I know that last weekend when I did the 3 back-to-back marathons, I did that off 2.5, 3 hours sleep,
Wow.
not intentionally. I was at a dance show with my girlfriend, got back late, got up early, looked at my watch, it was like, yeah, 3 hours, fucking 24 minutes sleep or something, and I was like, fuck it, it'll do, right? I've done worse. Is
Yeah.
what I had in my head. You know, I've gone in 2 days on 2 hours of sleep, and I've done twice as much of this. So in my head, I know, okay, I can do this X amount with this little sleep, so then I can do this. I think if you've been somewhere very very difficult, again, like in very imperfect circumstances, then when you try to operate on slightly better ones, it's like, oh, okay, I've done this before, right? So it's all
Yeah.
in like perspective with stuff.
Yeah.
So a big thing in the Marines was like lack of sleep, and they do that because like people don't quit when they're like physically tired. They don't quit when they're like pissed off or angry or upset. They usually it's when they're tired, like mentally, just haven't slept. Lack of sleep will fuck you up before lack of food or anything else, right? It drives you crazy.
Yeah.
When you can't focus, you get frustrated, and it's like,
Yeah.
now I don't sleep much. Now I sleep 5.5 hours probably. I just get up early. I start
Do
usually
you
around
think?
six.
Do you think the weather plays a part in that? So in terms of, again, when I've been on, because I've been to Portugal quite a lot with my wife. We got married out there. There were times where we were going for long stretches, and over there, yeah, I was 4 or 5 hours, but I was just waking up. There was no alarm. I was just waking up and wide awake, straight out and doing whatever. And it was late evenings because again, that's their culture over there. They've got kids running about till 1, 2 in the morning. And do you know what I mean? I always put it down to it was so hot, so sunny, and that was giving off something that was just potentially a better stimulant than over in the UK. Like now it's dark at 4:30, pitch black at 7:30 in the morning. So it's, I don't know whether that personally affects it
Yeah,
as
yeah.
well.
No, I feel like, especially in the UK, it's dark in the mornings and pissing down. I feel like your body
Yeah.
needs that, or your mind probably needs that extra bit of sleep. As again, like here in Dubai, it's always sunny. It gets dark early because obviously we're closer to the equator. It gets dark around 7 p.m.
Okay.
But it's light around like 5:30, and it's sunny every single day. You're right with that, and same with food as well. I feel like I don't have a tendency to want to eat as much heavy food here as I do in the
Yeah.
UK. You want to stay indoors a little bit, don't you? And you want to comfort eat and stuff in the UK. And
Yeah, man.
again, stay in bed longer, stay warm longer. Here, like I feel like I've been here 7 years. I still feel like I'm wasting the day if I'm not out in the sun or doing
Wow.
something. Like in the UK, if we get a sunny day, you're like, fucking hell, you don't want to stay indoors, right? You want to make the most of it. Well,
Very true.
Now, like 7 years in, I'm like, make the most of this.
No, I love it.
Girlfriend who was born here, she's like, it'll be sunny tomorrow.
No, I love it. So just whilst you brought nutrition up, I just want to kind of dig into it a little bit. So in terms of more so potentially your nutrition now, like what is that? Are you quite strict with that in terms of calorie counting, in terms of the foods you eat, or are you very much sort of more relaxed? I think from my perspective personally, just kind of I've been through the whole process. I've calorie counted so strictly, macronutrients in terms of measuring out proteins, fats, carbs, X, Y, Z. And then I started to listen to my body a little bit more, be a little bit more relaxed. And then personally, again, belief systems, I just started to understand, man, the harder I push, the more I can kind of be a little bit more, not necessarily lazy, but I can just enjoy certain things. So I'm probably like 80% getting good foods in because I do believe feeding the body the right way is what is need to fuel off. But then 20%, again, the missus will eat X, Y, Z. Does that make sense? So it was just curious to where you're at with nutrition, and also potentially just off the back of what I've just said, has your mentality towards nutrition changed throughout your years from the Marines, but then more so for your own training journey? Because you've probably done loads of different plans and done loads of research. Like, where do you sit now, and how has that changed?
Yeah. So I'm probably the same as you now. Is I eat 80% clean foods, 20% whatever I want. And I haven't counted a calorie since May 2022, so 18 months. I did 7 or 8 years of, or probably 7 years of bodybuilding, and I counted everything for those 7 years. Now I don't need to. I'm not trying to be super. If I wanted to get super lean, I would. I stay pretty lean from just the training I do. I make sure I get enough protein in. I make sure I get enough proper food in. But I eat around performance now. So I eat to perform. I know if I eat just junk food, my performance will be junk. I don't really care about the calories, but now I eat what I want in terms of portion sizes. I'm not a big eater anyway, to be honest. But yeah, if I want like ice cream or sweets, I'll have it.
Yeah.
I don't.
When you were bodybuilding, sorry, again, this is probably more of my interest now than anything else. Do you think the calorie counting was a must? Do you think when you're bodybuilding to the levels that you have, and to the levels like the stage athletes are getting on, do you think that counting calories is essential? Do you think that if you are in tune with your body, some people might not calorie count and can just kind of go off feeling like you've talked about, where probably you're a bit more on performance now? Like, where does your kind of belief system sit with calorie counting? Do you think it is necessary, or do you think you can get to the levels that kind of bodybuilders get to without necessarily calorie counting?
I think to get stage lean, you have to calorie count. Only reason that being is you get to a point where your body doesn't want to lose any more body fat, right?
Yeah.
I'm talking like between like 6% and 4% body fat. Your body doesn't want to lose anymore. So you have to be like tactical with it and think, right, I've eaten 2,100 calories. I've burnt this amount of calories. I've had this much sleep and my weight is the same. So I need to change something here. So you have to almost know exactly what it is in order to get your body to that peak part. When it comes to putting on muscle, I don't believe you need to. As long as you're eating plenty of food, your weight's going up, your strength is going up. Visually, you're looking like you're putting on muscle, not just around your stomach. But yeah, I think to get lean, lean is like as you and I are now. I don't think you need to calorie count to get lean, as most people would desire. I don't think you need to if you're in tune with your body, though.
I love how you pay me a compliment there, mate. Because looking at you, you're on like another level. But it's really interesting to hear you speak then, and I think that's a really good thing to take away, because the way I took what you were talking about then with calories, especially from a bodybuilding perspective, is they're using it more as a metric to make an adjustment when needed. So like you talked about there, like maybe, okay, so do we need to increase steady state cardio a little bit longer? Or do we need to transition something in the training? With nutrition, it's just a metric to understand, right, something needs to change because the results aren't coming as they had been for the previous weeks. So now we understand again, just in terms of calories, just last question I'll ask around it. Do you believe when you are calorie counting that because a lot of people have different views on this. Some people say as long as it's the calories, it doesn't matter. So if you're having 2,000, 3,000 calories, as long as you're hitting those calories out of any food, it doesn't matter. Some people really strongly believe that. I personally don't. I believe foods have a different effect on hormonal states on the body. They can do crazy things, foods. So I don't believe a calorie is a calorie. So I think if you, and again, this is only my belief personally, but I say you're going for 2,500 calories, for example. If you're eating shit for those amount, I think it's going to have adverse effects on the body. Does that make sense? Where do you sit with that?
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that to a degree. So say I was eating 2,500 calories, and say you and I were both the same weight, let's say 90 kilo, and both eating 2,500 calories. You're eating like whole healthy foods, and I'm eating shit food. I think we could both lose weight to a certain point, and then it would sort of have an effect. I think once your body fat starts getting low, if I was eating shit food, I think I wouldn't be sleeping as well, which would have an effect on my weight loss. I wouldn't be building as much muscle. So muscle needs calories. So I wouldn't be burning as many calories. I wouldn't have as much energy to put as much effort into my output. I'd have inflammation from the shit food. So yeah, like I agree to a point that calories is just a unit of measure for energy, right?
Yep.
But after a certain point, if you were eating shit food for 2,500 calories for 4 or 5 months, it's going to catch up with you to the same with the other person. You might have good results for the first 4, 5, 6 weeks. I think, I can eat fucking McDonald's every day and I'm losing weight. But it's gonna slow down and you're gonna feel like shit, look like shit, sleep, perform rubbish. So that's my belief in it.
No, it's bang on, and it's good to hear, because I think that again, people kind of want to hear this stuff personally, I believe, especially from someone that's living it still. Do you know what I mean? You're not talking about something from your past. This is something more so that what I like about individuals that have experienced a lot in terms of different areas, and then they've started to create their new way of being, their new way of living. So to see you now, you've obviously designed your life and way of being now from all of your experience. Does that make sense? but you've got a hell of a lot of experience in a lot of different things. What do you think's kind of like been the most positive influence since you came out of the Marines in terms of kind of like where your life? Because it must have been a tough. Again, I don't know, so I'm only kind of making assumptions here. But coming out with the Marines, was it then tough to think like, what the fuck do we do? Like, where am I going? Or do you think you had a good standpoint on where you wanted to go?
Nah, I fucked my life right up when I came out. I had a lot of regret. So I left to do like private security.
Okay.
Only being I was like 22. I was so I was a PW3, which is platoon weapons kind of thing, right? That was my branch within the Marines, and the promotion time on that was very, very slow. I was looking at like 5 or 6 years. So I was like, I can't be on the same wage. I was on like 1,200 quid. I was like, I don't want to be on 1,200 quid for another 5 years. I'm going to be 27 and I'm on the same amount of money as it was when I was 17. Maybe like a couple of hundred quid more. But I was like, nothing really interesting was coming up. So I decided, okay, I'm going to leave. I want to do private security so I can still kind of do the job, or even like maritime security, whatever. And I can earn more money. Okay, win-win. So I left. And as I was in my like leaving sort of period, I got a criminal record for fighting in Cardiff. Just pissed up, 22 years old, like it happens, right? But I got caught on camera, and I got a criminal record. And then that was going on as I was doing my leaving process. So I'd already left the Marines now. So I was outside, couldn't get a job doing private security because I had a criminal record for a violent crime. Or so I was what I was told. I couldn't go back in the Marines. So I was there. I was like, oh, fuck, what have I done? I didn't go to college or uni, anything like that. I joined the Marines instead. So I was like, I fucked my life up here. So I ended up like chopping logs for about 20 quid a day. Sleeping on a mattress on the floor in the Forest of Dean, just outside Gloucester. Like really, what have I done, man? I like proper like messed my life up. And then I slowly started turning it around, you know. And I so where am I going with this anyway? So that was my hardest point. Yeah, that was my hardest point. Was it was funny actually, because even for months after I left the Marines, people would ask, well, what do you do? And I told them I was in the Marines, even though I wasn't in the Marines anymore. I'd left. I didn't know who I was. I was like, fucking hell. I was so proud to be a Marine. And now can I say, I chop logs so I can fucking pay my electric bill? Do you know? I was like, I was a bit ashamed of myself, really. And I started getting these, who am I? And I went through a bit of a funny stage for probably about 12, 18 months. And like I had like got anxiety and stuff like that. I've never had it before. I'd be in Tesco and I was like, my heart was beating, I was sweating. And I was like, refused to admit it. I was like, I fucking had too much coffee today or something. You know, I was always like finding, it's this fucking Red Bull, you know. And I realized, like, now I'm like going through something here, but I just refuse to believe it. And then I started doing a PT course. So I was like, okay, I can't chop logs forever. So I started doing a PT course. And then I met a guy on the course, and he's like, oh, you're in good shape. He's like, you should compete. So I was like, yeah, fuck it, why not? I've got nothing else to do. But I was always a bit like, I didn't really want to do it. I was like, is that like in pants on stage? He's like, yeah. I was like, come get yeah. That's a bit gay, isn't it? He's like, that's I was a bit quiet about that because I thought the lads would take the piss out of me. And then once I started getting back into that routine, like waking up early, doing my cardio, prepping all my food, I was like, oh, fucking, I feel alive again. And then anyway, that's what kind of brought me out, and that's why I ended up where I am now. But yeah, that period of time was my lowest point. And I remember thinking in my head, I was like, if someone put £10 million in my bank right now, there's nothing I want to even do. Wow. And it was a scary thought. I was like, there's nowhere I want to go. There's no one I want to see. There's nothing I want to buy. So I started thinking like, I lost my mind a little bit. I didn't speak to anyone about it because I felt like, oh, it's fucking stupid. You know, I felt a
Yeah.
bit daft doing it. But I picked myself out of that place on my own. And then I ended up, and then as soon as I started competing, I got like feeling alive again. And I was like, okay, this is what I need to do. I need to be that goal driven, busy person, because
Yeah.
sitting around doing nothing and chopping logs, I like nothing wrong with chopping logs, but I felt like a loser because I put myself in that situation through my own stupid actions. So that was probably mentally that was the toughest time for me. But again, I'm not saying you should do this at all, but I didn't reach out to anyone. I tackled everything on my own in my own head and come to terms with things, and that made me since that period of time as well. I can't even count on one hand how many down days I've had.
Well, I love that, mate, because I think that's probably why I resonate with you so much, without even knowing that, because that's not far off my process. Not obviously in terms of the experiences and where we were at, but when I hit some serious lows in my own life, I got through to myself and I transitioned myself, and I'm proud of myself for doing that. And again, people that see me now that know me 20 years ago or 15 years ago, 10 years ago, just can't believe the person I am today. But what I try to give people now through the stuff that I do is this knowledge that you can change in any way you want it, or you can do something, and not necessarily to like there's so many, especially in the UK, mental health kind of talked about and try to be aware so much, and there's groups out there to show support. But what a lot don't do is put the onus back on the person, because they're a bit scared of it, because they're scared if they put the onus back on the person, then the person goes and does anything, they're going to land in shit. But my point is, there's got to come a point where you say to the individual, like, no matter how severe your situation is, no matter how down you are, no matter what's happened to you, no matter what it is, if you want to right now, you can grab life, you can transform, and you can push on. But there's only one person that can do that, and that is you. You can have support 100% in many shapes, but it's the individual that can only transition that. And the reason I am proud to say it and not ashamed to say it and not worried about saying it is because I've done it, and I've lived that, and I understand it can be done. And I think the more we shelter it, and it's like reach out, speak out, mate. I didn't want to fucking speak to anyone. Didn't want to speak to so-called friends. Didn't want to speak to my family. Didn't want to speak to counselors. Didn't want to speak to whoever. Like, I was dealing with it in my own head. And I utilize that myself to then fuel. And this is what I talked about before with the negative shit. Like, I've been very lucky to understand how to process that and put it into challenges and pushing myself. But just hearing you talk then, like, I think that there's a lot of people who get stuck in their own head, and it's the ability for them to understand it, to listen to it, and to have the resilience to push through it, because there's a stronger person on the other side.
Yeah, and I agree with you on that. I mean, it's okay to be in your own head with some stuff, and then, like, again, it's also good to talk about it. But people, it's like people can't do your push-ups for you. You know that saying. It's like it comes to a point that when you've got to take action of it, let go of the handrail and think, actually, the only person, again, the only reason I was struggling because I left a life that I went from 7 to 22 in, right? So I become a man, I guess, in that period, and I was around all like-minded people. And then I find myself in a fucking damp apartment on a mattress on the floor on my own. I was like, so it was a bit alien for me.
Yeah,
I was like, where's my support system? Where are the lads around me? If you went to Tesco, 5 of you would go. You never go anywhere on your own. It sounds like a bit weird, but
no.
Then also you find yourself on your own and you think, fucking hell, I don't have anyone to talk to. I don't have anyone in the same boat as me. But the only person that can actually get you out of that is you, and I think a lot of people, they need help, and it's good, but sometimes as well, you've got to have the right person around you.
100%.
Some people, like, again, so maybe like you, for example, you've gone through a lot in your life. You might be a very good person to give advice to, but sometimes people will reach out to their mates. Oh, come on, mate, let's go for a beer, or do that, and sometimes it's the wrong people.
Yeah.
So I think it's important to also be your own person. And
I think that's what I love about social media. I say this quite a lot, but funnily enough, like Paul Cootie on Instagram, I've never met him. So we're only connecting over social media. The likes of yourself, I've obviously met Lee, but there's people that I'm connected with now that are class as friends. I've never met, but the reason that I bond with them so well is because they're potentially living a life in a way that I look up to, I admire, that motivates me. I obviously motivate myself and discipline myself and focus myself, but being around the right people or watching the right people and connecting with the right people, so integral to me, because again, I've been on the other side, which you've talked about there. A pint leads to a bag of Coke leads to XYZ. Before you know it, you're on a bender, and you started off having a pint because you felt shit and you thought it was going to help you feel better, and then you end up on a Monday morning feel 100 times worse and in a hole, and then you've got a week of trying to get out of it. So I think you're so right in the right person to go to, but very much so then there's a point where you've got to realize no one's holding your hand and it's time to take those steps. Do you think that this is an interesting question from my perspective, because I didn't compete in bodybuilding, but bodybuilding definitely helped me through dark times. But I think that when I was doing my bodybuilding, and it was in the early 20s when I was really heavy into bodybuilding, I was very isolated at that time anyway, because I stepped away from a lot of people. So I was on my own. But then I found a sport that actually I could do on my own. Does that make sense? And you might have had a different experience with bodybuilding, but from my own perspective, I was, yeah, don't get me wrong, I was in touch with people in the gym or whatnot, but I was headphones in, did my workout, got home, prepping my meals, making sure I was sleeping, just watching bodybuilding, the hardcore guys that I was just visualizing Arnie's, everything that I needed to be. But for about 5 years, I was very, very isolated from about 22 to 27. But obviously, I achieved, in my own perspective, I achieved really good things, especially with my body shape and strength and the things I was doing in the gym. But I found it to be very isolated. What was your experience with bodybuilding? Were you a little bit more potentially communicating with individuals and there's more of a group, especially coming out of, like you say, because I think the similarity between the Marines and bodybuilding is the structure, potentially the discipline, the structure, the routine. So you found that again in bodybuilding.
Yeah, but
Was there a
socially,
difference in terms of like the brotherhood of?
no, I was totally isolated bodybuilding. Didn't
Okay.
really have any mates that did it. Didn't really speak to many people. There's only when I moved to Dubai, there was a lot of people doing it, but I still was very much on my own doing it. Only one guy, my mate Elliot. Now he's still bodybuilding. We become friends probably 4 or 5 years ago. We never met. We didn't meet for about 2 years, I don't think, after we being mates. But we spoke a lot, and that was the only person I really spoke with about bodybuilding. Apart from that, it was totally on my own. And I didn't really see it as a ice. I didn't really notice I was so isolated with it. And in the last 12 months since I've been doing this kind of stuff now, I've connected with yourself, with Lee, with Kuti, and I find it's a little bit more, bit more topical conversation with it, and it excites me a little bit more to talk to people because I know what they're doing with their mind and their body. Bodybuilding, it's like, yeah, you're looking lean, mate. Oh, fucking hell, your chest looks big, but you don't really go into like depth about where you went during that chest session.
Yeah.
So I find I can connect to people a little bit more on this. I think emotionally and yeah.
No, definitely. So was your bodybuilding in the UK then?
I started when I was in the UK, and then when I moved to Dubai, I kind of got into it properly. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Wow. So in terms of your journey in Dubai, then, is it been, because you obviously, how's your training? Like, what was the point when you decided, right, I'm going to step away from bodybuilding? And then,
That was a funny one actually. It was just last year. It was last May. Um, when I was bodybuilding, I mean, same as everyone who does it, right? You're so like laser focused, don't really care about anything else going on around you, and that's not a great thing, really.
yeah.
And my stepfather, he's my stepfather for like 22 years. He got very sick the last few years, and last year he was very very sick with cancer, esophagus, liver, some on his spine,
Wow.
and
Shit.
I didn't spend enough time with him. He was like, "Oh mate, I'm going to be in Thailand for treatment. You come out here, or come to Spain with me." And I can't. I'm competing. competing all year. And then I competed in South Africa, came second for my pro card again. I came second so many times now. And then I spoke to him afterwards, and he was like, "Oh, mate, you doing any more competitions this year?" Yeah, I have a couple more planned. And he's like, "Oh, because I'd like to see you this summer." I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, he's ill, like with cancer, and there's me thinking that I've got to do another bodybuilding show because I've got to turn pro. And yeah, I know he's sick and all, but like, I've got to focus on my own shit. Mega selfish. And I stopped for about it, and I thought, I was like, what am I doing? And he died. He died in August, just 2022, August last year. But I stopped my competitions then for the year. I went and spent all summer with him. It was to the end. It was quite bad, to be honest, mate. I was caring for him in bed, like carrying him to the bathroom, and I was with him, held his hand till he closed his eyes. So it was as much as it was unpleasant. It was a nice experience as well. I was there for him. And after that, I was like, I kind of just didn't really realize why I was still bodybuilding. It was because I had to turn pro. And I was like, are you actually enjoying the training? I was like, do I actually want to be any bigger? I was like, I didn't want to be any bigger. I was like, got to the point then, he just kind of opened my eyes with it. I was like, fuck, I've been doing that with a lot of things in my life. Just being like, I've got to do this. I've got to be successful at this. I'm not looking at anything else going on around me, like family, relationships. Again, my stepfather with his sickness, and even business. My business was like, yeah, it was okay, but it's twice as good now in a year. As soon as I stopped being so obsessed with winning, that's it.
It's phenomenal to hear you speak, really, and I think that sometimes it takes something traumatic to change, like you say, perspective, because you can be so zoned into something. And I think bodybuilding is one of those sports. Again, I've not competed and I've never been to a high level like yourself, but from what I know from obviously the documentaries I've read and the people that I follow, which are inspirational to me, they had to become so heavily obsessed. It had to become their one and only. And if you see, I remember watching Ronnie Coleman's documentary on Netflix, man, and that like it was so I was so emotionally attached to it. Like I felt like crying at one point, like, and then seeing how debilitated he was, but to still see him wake up, like he couldn't physically walk without a stick, and he all his spine and legs had gone, and he was still going to the gym at 5 a.m. not competing in it just because it was just that is their whole entire fucking life. Same with CT Fletcher, man. There's some big people that I've looked up to and they really helped me forge a mindset that I've got in my training, but they were another level in terms of kind of solely focused and obsessed with the outcome. But the interesting thing is that's how they achieved phenomenal fucking feats. Like
I think you have to be, yeah. I think you are. I know you have to be like that. It's not something you can have a go at and be okay at. I mean, same with anything, right? To a top level. But I feel like bodybuilding is one of those, it's 24 hours a day. Like you have to monitor your food and your sleep as well as your training, like every single day on prep anyway. Even like what I'm doing now, mentally, I believe it's tougher, but I can go out for a meal with family, friends, or whatever, and then the next day go and perform fine. Bodybuilding, you can't do that. It's like, no, I've got to stay home. I've got to eat what's measured. It's very consuming. And I'm glad that I saw, I said the light, but I'm glad I saw the other side of it early enough. Like I just turned 30 now. Well, 6 months ago now, but I'm glad that I saw that at this point, and I wasn't keep chasing that pro card because for some reason I thought when I turn pro, it'll be like, oh, it all opens up and it all makes sense now. But I see some guys now, they've turned pro and they're still like in the same situation as I am now, except they're competing against harder people. So it's a very small percentage get to the top. And it's quite a hard pill to swallow, to know that I consider myself to have fairly good genetics. Do I believe I could have turned pro? Yes. Do I believe I could have been a top pro? No. And I can
Wow.
say that now, but if you asked me that 2 years ago, I'd be like, no, I'll be on the Olympia stage because I fucking want it. But
Yeah.
it's a hard pill to swallow. Actually, the guys are younger than you and they're better than you. They've got better genetics than you. You might train as hard, you might eat as hard as them, but they've got these other three things that are on their side, and you can't change that. So you know, it hurts your ego a bit, or it hurt mine a little bit. Because a few people said to me like, "Oh, you know, you've got good genetics, but you've not got elite genetics." And I was like, "No, I have. No, I haven't. I've just got good genetics with good work ethic." Like,
Interesting to talk about that. So, like, in terms of what you do now, like, so genetics in terms of a bodybuilding structure, yeah, because you're talking about symmetry, you're talking about structure of the muscles of the body. And if someone's got a good developed calves and quads and biceps and triceps and shoulders, and it's all symmetrical, like, this is marks that are going to get them to win. With what you put yourself in towards now, would you say that obviously genetics to a degree, but surely that is a lot more of this mental toughness, mental resilience, the way you're able to perform, continue to perform? Do you know what I mean? Would you agree with that? Or would you say genetics
yeah.
is still a bigger role?
No, with this, I think it's a mindset. I think genetics come in, of course they do, like to a certain degree, but I don't think it's that important. Maybe to run a marathon in a certain amount of time, yes,
Yeah.
but to run a marathon, no. To run
Yeah.
10 marathons back to back, that's going to be fucking hard for anyone, no matter what your
Yeah.
genetics are. That's going to start hurting
Yeah.
after 2 marathons, or maybe even one. The other 8 marathons, that's controlling it. So I
Yeah.
believe, like, because I'm never going to be faster than some people. I'm never going to be stronger than some people. Will I be able to push myself to limits that some people can't? Yes, and I'm confident with that.
What's interesting, like, hearing you speak now is really interesting, because I think for me especially, I like conversations like this because it opens my eyes up, and sometimes hearing someone speak helps me visualize things. And I think the aspects that we do now, and you way ahead of me in terms of what you're doing, is phenomenal. But what you're doing is helping people understand, like, you can create um your own outcome in terms of what you want to go and achieve. And like you talked about there, like, if someone went out and attempted to do 6 marathons on 3 pieces of equipment twice over, they could be doing it over a fucking 2 week period. Do you know what I mean? But it's still an achievement to them.
Yeah,
And you're just going to another level because you've got higher levels of fitness, you've been training XYZ, you're in a different position. But it's not to take away from someone else trying something that's at their level, that's not at their level in a comfort zone, in their level outside of that, and they're pushing towards it. But I think that's this, like Lee with his 24-hour burpee challenge, man. Like, honestly, that was just
there's no easy way around that.
no, do you know what I mean? And it's just what then you are prepared to put yourself into. And I also think, again, the reasons why, and the wants, and I know that Lee had a reason for Bobby to raise money and awareness for Bobby, but the other side of that is, like, Lee picked that challenge.
Yeah,
Do you know
yeah,
what I
yeah.
mean? Like, Lee could have picked any fucking challenge. He personally said, I'm going to do a 24-hour burpee. So something in his mind was like, I know it's going to be disgusting, but I want to fucking do it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like, he
yeah,
like you talked about, he chose to do it, and it was a relentless challenge. And I think that there's so much out there now to be had, and I think there's a lot more people coming out now that are putting themselves into personal challenges like this, like Cutie running up Scarfell Pike with a row attached to his back and then hitting 10K at the top. And he messaged me that before anyone knew, and he said, "Listen, I'm not telling anyone. I'm just going to go and do it, and then say it's been done." Like, he did it for his own personal reasons, but
yeah.
then he, of course, wanted to share it, to inspire, to show what's possible, or these kind of things. But it's that inner drive. Do you feel that you've witnessed this potentially throughout your life, or do you feel it's becoming more present now in this day and age? Like, what's your take on that?
With people sort of pushing
Yeah,
themselves and stuff.
yeah,
No?
yeah. If you look at, like, the challenges that are going, and I reckon social media has been a big driver within it. I think for a positive, but I personally, from my own perspective, in the last 2 to 3 years, I would say, have seen more people coming out and just not necessarily even going to the extremes challenges and mixing stuff together, but definitely going outside the norm and pushing themselves harder, and just pushing themselves into something that's going to really kind of challenge them, if that makes sense. And you're talking like the average Joe, just thinking, you know what, I'm just going to go into this, or I'm going to train for this, or I'm going to do something out of the norm because I want to feel what it's like. I want to build my mind. I want to build my resilience in my body.
I think it's a desire that we have deep down that we don't get enough of now, because life gets easier and easier, right?
Yeah, man.
Every year something else is invented to make our life easier, and I think people still have that. Not everyone, but I think a lot of people have that thing in their head, like, oh, fucking hell, like, can I still do this kind of stuff? They want to prove to themselves a little bit. It's like all men want to go up in the mountains and live on the mountains for a week in a tent. Sure, if you ask any bloke, old, young, fucking in shape or fat, the thought of that is like, that sounds really good. That does. Live off the land or something. Everyone's fucking. It's that primal thing that I think everyone still has this little bit of desire in them to go and do, because life is so fucking easy now. Especially here in Dubai, like, you don't even put your fuel in your car on your own. Someone does it for you.
Seriously,
Everywhere.
wow.
Yeah. It's like you don't do anything slightly dirty or hard, and it's an easy place to get very comfortable. And I don't want to say the word weak, but it is an easy place to get weak if you don't.
No, definitely.
Like I even felt it slightly, you know. Even when I finished bodybuilding, I thought 10K on a row, that's a long way. And I was like, why is it a long way? Because someone's fucking told you it's a long way. What is it, like 45 minutes to an hour? I was like, for some people it is a long way, but it shouldn't be a long way for me. But I just, that's quite it's a long distance, that is. And then I got to a point where I was like, why am I going back to that when I know what's actually challenging for me is 10 hours?
Yeah,
that's the sort of stuff that I need to be doing. But it's easy to the people around you, and if everyone's rowing 5K and I row 10K, I row twice as much as you. So that makes me feel like, wow, I'm doing loads. But in perspective, like it's only relevant to those people.
Yeah.
But I'm not actually pushing myself. I think I am. If that makes sense. I don't know. I went off on a tangent there.
No, no, it makes perfect sense, because you're highlighting that everything you do is for you, and that's not in a selfish way, in terms of you're not out there to try and beat someone in what they've done. You're actually just thinking, right, what's my ability and how can I push beyond that? You're not looking at someone that's done a 5K and thinking, oh man, I'm going to do a 10K. You've done that 5K. What you're actually saying is like, what could I personally do, and how could I push that harder? How can I push myself harder to achieve it? And I think that's a great outlook, and obviously why you're pushing on and achieving so much. What's your vision of where you're taking the next couple of years, both with training, because are you an online coach? Is that correct, Toby? Or do you do one-to-one coaching out there as well?
Yeah, I do a bit of both. Yeah. So February, I've just booked this 400-kilometer ultra marathon in the Arctic Circle in, I think, northeast Canada.
Wow.
I think that's between like -30 and -50. So that's
-30.
-30 to -50. Yeah, and it's 400-kilometer race, and you have like a little sled that you like the sleds, but you have a little
different kettle of fish. That
I think it's a lot lighter than your sled, though. So that's what I've just booked that now. Just signed up the other day.
And just out of curiosity for that one, I know we're pushing time a bit, but just out of curiosity on that, how do you think are you gonna go to some cold countries to train, or are you just gonna go from Dubai to there and fucking climatize doing it?
I'll probably have like 2 days in the UK.
And then you're there, man. Fuck.
Mate,
and
like,
is that like on like where you've got poles and you kind
I think you can use the poles if you want. Yeah.
Right.
I've seen different pictures of it, but I've already mapped it out in my head how I'm going to do it, and I think I can win it. Honestly, I just like in my head, I don't see why I won't win it either. I know there's people doing it who've experience and stuff, but I don't know. I just know I just think I'll win it. To be honest, I love that. I might eat my words, but
no. Well, to be fair, mate, like you said, that mindset's imperative to have. I personally believe, like, if you're going into something just to experience it, that's the mindset you're going to have. If you want to win it, you've got to have that mindset of I'm going to win this. Do you know what I mean? You've got to have that hunger, that desire, which is good to hear, man. You can tell how hungry you are for things. Lee mentioned the green? Is it beret? Am I saying that correctly?
Yes,
Challenge.
That's what is that? That's April, I think. That's 26 miles. What's that, like 48k or something? Brecon Beacons with weight. I think that's a race as well. So they've got that.
And is that a team one? That and is that?
That's a team. I think that's a team. Yeah. I don't know what the teams are. Teams of 2 or 3 or 4 or something. But you should jump on that, mate.
He's already trying to link me into that one, mate. So
yes.
That's. Go on.
I think he gets commission for if he signs people up. That's why.
A legend. I think he won't give me a choice. Surely, is that something you're going to be used to, though? Is that something you'd have potentially done before?
Yeah, I've done that sort of stuff before, but like I don't want to run my mouth about it and start. I'm the Marine here because I might get whooped.
No,
I'll stay quiet.
And
I want to do an ultra in the desert as well. I think there's a 200-kilometer race in the desert or something.
Wow.
I want to try and get all that done in the same year.
Right.
That's kind of where I'm pushing stuff now. I feel like I've just come into like a new chapter of everything, and I feel like this is probably what I'm best at. Like I was always okay at bodybuilding, but I think naturally I have quite a gift for this long endurance kind of stuff. Even at my weight, I still managed to do it okay. So I want to really take advantage of the next sort of 10 years with this kind of stuff now, and I want to try to set some world records and things like that, really. But I'm just getting started, so I'm just getting ideas. But I can see I'm pushing this quite hard, yeah.
Yeah, and I think I'll start to wrap it up, mate, because I appreciate the time you've given me so far. But I think that's a nice thing to finish on, because I think that what you do is helping other people see what's possible, not to match you, but just to, if you push yourself as hard as you can and to have the mindset and the mentality that you have and dare to step up and push yourself. Like, I believe that this sort of training really helps individuals kind of progress in life away from training as well. It really develops a character, a personality, your traits, who you are, how you see yourself, how you see your life. That's what I take out of when I challenge myself. I come away from it feeling a certain way about my life, about who I am, about my family. It really puts everything in perspective, but at the same time, it keeps me humble and focused. And I think that, again, watch it. I can just flick on Instagram and just see you. And it, like, you talk about your endurance stuff, but even I remember doing something the other day, and I had to look back at your Insta to look at the times you'd put on. I think it was a rower, and I think you were doing, might have been 300 meters. I can't remember. It was only short. You were doing intervals, and I was like, fucking phenomenal. But that's my driver. Do you know what I mean? I like to have these people that I look up to and think it's not that I'm trying to beat you or match you. It's just like, that's what's possible. Now you can prove your possible. So I'm always proving my own possible, but it's good to see what's being achieved. And I think everything you're talking about now is just above and beyond. And I think it's nice to be connected with this. But I think that's the power of social. You can see people that you potentially wouldn't see in your smaller circle. And there's a lot of kind of capped potential there. And as soon as you start to break through that and see, fuck me, look at what this guy's doing out here. That's phenomenal. This girl's doing over here, or this person, and it excites you, man. And it's like, motherfucker, I want some of that.
Like when you think you're at the top of your game, you realize that there's a whole fucking new level to everything, right? And it's like some people running 5K without stopping is a massive achievement, and they've got to push themselves for that. You know, it's not about, oh, I can run 100 miles, you can only run 5. It's about 100 miles for me, for example, is really fucking hard. But I'm putting myself in that position to be successful or fail, at least trying to be successful at it. And again, if you can't even run a kilometer or 2 kilometers, try it. Don't stop until you have to stop. Do you know what I mean? So it's not all about, it's not a competition like you said. It's not about who can run the first, run the fastest.
What you said there's perfect, because sorry to jump in, but I wanted to pull it back to what you said then, because I think that's something that I found in everyone that I'm connecting to in a minute. Okay, whether in person or online, that no matter what level they're at, they're supportive of the person's goal that they're in connection with. So if, like you say, but it's the same mentality. That's the most important thing. So my point being there is, if I see someone trying to attempt a 1K or a 5K, it wouldn't be like that's a small goal. That'd be like, fucking, if that's your goal, go and attack it. But it'll be the impression that I'm trying to give them of how to go and attain that and achieve that. And if they're struggling to do it or not wanting to do whatever it is, it's like, no, you need to go and nail that and attack it. And that's the mentality of seeing someone do 100 or a 5. It's not the actual outcome of the goal. It's what it takes to achieve it. And it's kind of the same in a weird way because they're at different levels. Does that kind of make sense? What I was trying to say there?
Like you said, it's just stepping up, isn't it, and putting yourself in that position. A few weeks ago, I did the 100K on the ski, but before that, the furthest I've ever done was 5K. So I didn't know what my body was going to do after 10K. I didn't know it was going to cramp up. I didn't even know if my technique was good for endurance. But my mate Claude, he's 52.
Okay.
He was doing it. I mentioned it to him because he'd been doing like 4 hours and 5 hours. I said, mate, go for 100K. It's about 8 or 9 hours. He's like, yeah, all right. And then a couple of days later, he's like, you doing it with me? And I thought, I'd be a bit of a cunt, wouldn't I? If I'm like, no. So I was like, yeah, I'll fine, I'll do it with you. But I was like, he's only done 4 or 5 hours. I was like, I don't even know what I'm like after an hour. Like, do I cramp up?
Wow.
So I just put myself in that position. I was like, I'm either going to do it or I'm going to look like a tit. But at least I'm putting myself in the position, you know, to make yourself vulnerable sometimes.
Yeah, man.
You'll be successful. If you're not successful, you're still miles ahead of the people who didn't even try it. So put yourself out
definitely. Love it. So I'll finish off just touching base on this weekend's challenge. So obviously you've done an amazing thing, and you're putting this towards raising donations towards Bobby. Which again, Lee Sars was doing that as well on Saturday, and loads of other people. So just to kind of give anyone that's listening, because we're going to try and get this podcast out as quick as possible. So they might be coming in after you've done it, but it doesn't mean you can't kind of send any donations in. And hopefully a lot of people that are listening do know that circle of people. So if you can tell everyone kind of like what the challenge is, what to expect, etc.
Yeah, so it's going to be row a marathon, run a marathon, ski a marathon, straight back into row a marathon, run a marathon, ski a marathon, which is 254 kilometers, I think, in total, something like that. That's going to be back to back, no rest, no stopping, maybe like a quick bathroom break or something. That'll probably take between 25, 27 hours is what I've estimated. And that's going to be outside on the desert as well. So it's probably going to be, but between 10 a.m. and 6 p.m., it's probably going to be like mid-30s. Obviously, the night will be a little bit
extreme, man. That's extreme.
Yeah, so we're putting ourselves in the uncomfortable situation for it as well. So it'll be tough, I think.
Yeah, man. Even hearing that, I think the heat, like in terms of climatization for the heat, do you feel you have acclimatized to the heat in Dubai, or do you think that no matter how acclimatized you are, when you put yourself into that kind of training, because you're going to be so dehydrated, and that heat in the sun, is it quite humid over there? Is it quite dry?
Usually it's very humid. It's like November now, so it's just humidity is just cooling down a bit or getting less. Man, I have my AC on in my house at like 17 degrees, blasting. Like I get hot really easy. And my girlfriend hates it. My girlfriend, she was born here. She's in like a hoodie in the house. I'm always hot wherever I go in Dubai. I've been here long now. I'm always sweating. I'm always too hot. Always uncomfortable in restaurants because it's not. So I don't even know if I've acclimatized here yet, to be honest.
In terms of set up for kind of hydration and fuel and stuff like that, are you planning that, or are you just going to have stuff there and wait if you need to get some fluid in, etc.? Or when you do challenges like this, do you structure it like that, or do you just go into it and just think, when I need something, I need something?
Yeah, I bring lots of what you call it, electrolytes with me.
Yeah,
I have a lot of electrolytes. I don't eat that much. I eat probably like flapjacks and bananas. I bring like a protein bar or something as well for like halfway through. Sometimes like salted nuts, and what else is it? That's pretty much it. That's pretty much all I do.
Wow.
I don't overeat in the day before. I eat exactly the
Okay.
same as I always would. I don't believe in like carving up for it. Not going in hungry, but I try and keep my body like as it's always as it is every day. I think when you start trying to play around with too many like variables, it gets a bit bloated or might need the bathroom more. Or I don't know. If you eat too much, you're digesting, right? Your body's lethargic. You got too much blood in your stomach, not enough in your limbs. So I try to keep everything just. Don't overthink it, man. Just crack it.
It sounds like it's the best way to go for yourself, mate. I definitely feel that you are in tune with your body and your mind, and that's one hell of a feat, like you say, just in a gym, but let alone in the desert, man. What into when you say that, like, whereabouts in the desert, like, is that for someone sitting in the UK to hear, like, I'm just going to do it in the middle of a desert?
Yeah, it's like a car park. That's
okay.
In the UK, you have a field, or here it's just a desert. So it's just a car park next to the desert. I've got a ski in a row set up, and then there's like a cycle track that we're gonna do the marathon on.
So you're actually moving on the cycling, right? Okay.
Yeah, we're not going to be running actually in the sand, but next year we've got a 50K planned in the sand in July when it's like 15 degrees.
Wow.
So that's going to be like disgusting, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it.
So Toby, just shout out what your Instagram tag is, just so everyone can.
Toby _Richa, Richa.
So guys, in the show notes, I'm gonna tag that in just so you can, if you're not already following Toby, you can jump on and check him out. He will have probably done this challenge by the time this is released, but as you've heard, he's got plenty more challenges coming up. And also, I 100% recommend scrolling up on his feed or down on his feed and just seeing the things that this guy's accomplished, the kind of philosophies and what he's about as a human, as a person, and just the way he applies himself to life. Because it's been something that's hugely inspired me over the time that I've connected with you, and I mean that from the bottom of my heart. Like, if you speak to Lee especially, man, I'm a man of my words, and I speak as I see and as I feel, and like you what you do kind of helps me kind of prove what's possible and pushes me, like I've talked about there. So I can only thank you, mate, for everything you do. And I know you're doing it for yourself and your own journey, but I don't think sometimes you realize the impact you're having on other people. So just massive props from myself, mate. And hopefully we will be meeting sometime next year, touch wood, to get something done.
Oh, thank you, man. And thank you for your kind words, mate. Obviously, likewise, man. I came across your page from, I think Kuti sent me your page. And yeah, it's very, very inspiring, man. You do some pretty crazy stuff. So.
No, I appreciate that, mate. And again, thank you for your time tonight. And hopefully we might be able to jump on one of these again sometime soon.
Awesome. Love it. Thank you very much, mate. I appreciate the time.
All right, mate. I'll leave you to it. Thank you for your time, and I'll speak soon.
Cheers, man. Cheers, mate. Bye-bye.